Your feet. They carry you through every step of life. Yet most people ignore them until they start screaming for attention. But let me tell you something that many don't realize. Your feet are like a window into your true health condition. They whisper secrets about what's really going on inside your body long before bigger problems show up. I have seen it time and time again. Someone ignores a small issue. Then months later, they find themselves battling a serious health problem they never saw coming. I remember a man I knew years ago. A hard worker. Strong as an ox. But one day he complained about numbness in his feet. He thought it was nothing. Just age catching up with him. He kept going, ignoring the signs. Then came the day he couldn't feel the ground beneath his feet. That was when the doctors told him. His blood sugar had been out of control for years. His feet had been warning him all along. But he did not listen. Cold feet that never seemed to warm up. That is not just poor circulation. It can be a sign that your thyroid is struggling. And if your thyroid is in trouble, that means your metabolism is slowing down. Your energy is draining. Your body is not working as it should. Many people brush it off. They pile on socks. Warm themselves by the fire. But inside, something deeper is happening. Then there are those swollen feet. People think it is just from standing too long. But swelling can be a warning sign. Your heart might not be pumping blood efficiently. Your kidneys may be struggling to filter properly. Your body is holding on to fluid because something inside is not working as it should. And when you ignore it, when you brush it off as just another minor annoyance, you risk allowing a bigger problem to grow in silence. Pay attention to your toenails. If they are turning thick and yellow, it is not just about poor hygiene. It can mean your immune system is weak. Your circulation is poor. Your body is struggling to fight off infections. It is easy to dismiss discolored nails, but they are little red flags waving, telling you to look closer. Cracked heels. Some people think it is just dry skin. Nothing serious. But deep cracks can be a sign of vitamin deficiencies. If your body is not getting the right nutrients, it shows in your skin first. Your feet take the most impact, so they are often the first to suffer. And if those cracks become deep enough, they can lead to infections. I have seen people ignore them for so long that they end up with serious pain. Wounds that will not heal. All because they did not pay attention to what their body was trying to tell them. Foot cramps. Those sudden sharp pains that make you stop in your tracks. Many think it is just dehydration. And sometimes that is true. But frequent foot cramps can mean you are missing key minerals. Magnesium, calcium, potassium. These are not just fancy words. They are essential to keeping your muscles working, your heart beating properly, your nerves functioning as they should. And when your body does not have enough of them, it starts sending signals, little jolts of pain to get your attention. Then there is the matter of foot pain that will not go away. Some blame it on age, on the wrong shoes. But sometimes, persistent foot pain is a sign of arthritis creeping in, or nerve damage beginning to take hold. The body does not always scream when something is wrong. Sometimes it whispers through small aches. Ignored long enough, they turn into something much worse. I once knew a woman who kept complaining about tingling in her toes. She shrugged it off. Thought it was just from sitting too long. But that tingling turned into burning. Then numbness. By the time she saw a doctor, they told her she had nerve damage from diabetes. Damage that could have been prevented if she had listened to her feet sooner. Then there are those who wake up and feel stiffness in their feet before they even take their first step. That is often a sign of inflammation. It could be the start of something like rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune condition where the body attacks itself. But people ignore it. They stretch a little. They keep going. Until one day, that stiffness turns into pain that will not go away. If your feet start sweating excessively or suddenly become dry and cracked, it could be your nerves struggling to control sweat production. This is often an early warning sign of diabetes. Your nerves stop working properly. Your body loses control of simple functions. And before you know it, the problem spreads. I knew a man who started developing small wounds on his feet that would not heal. He thought it was nothing. But those wounds became ulcers. His circulation had been weakening for years, but he ignored the signs. He did not realize that when your feet stop healing properly, it often means your blood is not flowing the way it should, and poor circulation leads to bigger problems. Many people do not realize that changes in the way they walk can also be a sign of deeper issues. If you start favoring one foot over the other, if your balance feels off, it could mean nerve damage, a problem in your spine, even an issue in your brain. These things do not happen overnight. They build slowly. Your body tries to warn you, but only if you are willing to listen. Your feet tell the truth about your health long before the rest of your body catches up. But too many people ignore them. They cover up the discomfort. They push through the pain. They tell themselves it is nothing. Until one day, it is something they can no longer ignore. I have seen people lose toes, lose feet, lose their ability to walk, all because they did not pay attention to what their feet were trying to say. If your feet feel different, if something seems off, do not wait. Do not brush it aside. Your body is speaking to you. And if you listen now, you may save yourself from something far worse later. Now, let's clear some common questions. Can changes in the way you walk, such as imbalance or foot dragging, signal an issue in your spine or even early cognitive decline? I have seen it happen many times. A man or woman who once walked with confidence, their steps sure and steady. Then one day, something changes. At first, it is barely noticeable. A slight hesitation in their stride, a small imbalance that only they seem to feel. But as the days go by, it becomes more pronounced. A foot dragging ever so slightly, a step that feels weaker than before. Most people shrug it off. They blame age, fatigue, maybe even the wrong pair of shoes. But what they do not realize is that sometimes, a change in the way you walk is not just about your legs or feet. It is your body's way of whispering a warning, a signal that something deeper is unfolding. I remember a man from my younger days, a strong man, the kind who could carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. But one day, he started walking differently. His right foot did not lift as high as it used to. He had to think before he took a step. His balance seemed just a little off. At first, he ignored it, said it was just stiffness. But as time passed, the imbalance grew worse. By the time he finally sought help, the doctors told him the truth. It was not just an issue with his legs. It was his spine. His nerves were not sending the right signals. The foundation of his movement was crumbling from within. The spine is like the tree trunk of your body. It holds everything together, protects the delicate nerves that control every movement. Every step you take begins with signals traveling from your brain, down through the spinal cord, then out to your muscles. When something goes wrong in that pathway, your walk begins to change. Maybe it starts with a slight hesitation, a foot dragging just a little more than before, a shift in balance that makes you feel uneasy on your own feet. You may not even notice it at first, but the body does not change without reason. And when the way you walk begins to shift, it is often because your spine is struggling to keep up. I have known people who thought it was just old age slowing them down. But when they finally got checked, the truth was much more serious. Some had compressed nerves in their spine, pinched so tightly that the signals could not travel freely. Others had degenerative conditions, where the bones in their back were slowly breaking down, causing weakness they never expected. And some were facing something even more alarming. Their gait was not just changing because of physical issues. It was their mind. Their brain was beginning to lose its grip on movement, on coordination, on control. There was an old friend of mine, a woman who once walked faster than anyone I knew. She had energy that could light up a room. But then one day, she started walking differently. It was not just that she was slower. It was that her movements seemed uncertain. Her feet hesitated before stepping forward, as if her body was unsure of what to do next. She laughed it off, said she was just tired. But as the months passed, that hesitation turned into full moments of confusion. She would take a step and then stop, as if she forgot how to walk for a second. When she finally saw a doctor, they told her what she never expected. It was her brain. The early stages of cognitive decline. A disease creeping in quietly, showing itself first in the way she moved. Most people do not realize that the brain and movement are deeply connected. Before memory fades, before words begin to slip away. Sometimes, the first sign of a problem is in the way a person walks. The brain controls everything. Balance, coordination, the ability to move fluidly without thought. When certain areas of the brain begin to weaken, the signals to the legs become slower. The body hesitates. The steps grow smaller. The arms stop swinging naturally. And what seems like a small change in gait is actually the first whisper of something much larger. I have seen too many people ignore these signs. They think it is nothing. They believe they just need more rest. Or maybe better shoes. But movement does not change without reason. And when you feel something is off, when your feet no longer move the way they used to, it is time to listen. Because catching these issues early can make all the difference. There are those who catch a spinal issue before it becomes permanent damage, who seek help before nerve compression turns into full loss of function. There are those who recognize the changes in their balance early enough to slow the decline, to strengthen their body before weakness takes hold. And there are those who notice the hesitation in their steps soon enough to seek medical advice, to find out what their brain is trying to tell them before it is too late. I have lived long enough to know that the body always speaks before it shouts. First, a whisper, a small shift in the way you move, a moment of imbalance, a foot dragging ever so slightly. Then, that if ignored, the problem grows louder. The steps become more difficult. The control over movement weakens. Until one day, what could have been managed becomes something much harder to fight. So if you notice something different in the way you walk, do not ignore it. Do not wait until it is too late. Your body is giving you a message. And if you listen closely, if you take action when the first signs appear, you may just save yourself from something far worse down the road. How do sudden changes in foot shape, such as high arches or fallen arches, point to genetic conditions or progressive diseases affecting muscles and nerves? I knew a man whose feet changed before his life did. He had always been strong, moved with ease, never thought about the shape of his step. But then he started noticing pain, a deep ache in the middle of his foot. And over time, his arches seemed to shrink. What was once a normal foot began to flatten against the ground. He ignored it at first, thought it was just age, or the way he walked. But as the years passed, his legs grew weaker. His balance suffered. What started in his feet soon reached up through his body. Until one day, he struggled to lift his toes off the ground at all. When he finally saw a doctor, they told him the truth. It was not just his feet. It was his nerves. A progressive disease that had been working its way through his body long before he noticed. And the first warning was right there. In the quiet collapse of his arches. The feet are not just bones and skin. They are a reflection of the body's health. The nerves that control movement. The muscles that hold us upright. The genetic codes that shape the way we stand. When high arches appear suddenly, or when arches collapse without warning, it is not just about comfort or pain. It is about the deeper systems at work. The body's way of saying that something is shifting. Sometimes it is a disorder passed down through bloodlines, a genetic condition that remains silent until the right moment. Other times, it is a slow and steady unraveling of the nervous system. A disease creeping in, weakening what once felt unbreakable. I have known people whose feet told them a truth their minds did not want to accept. A young woman who walked without issue until her 20s. Then one day, her arches rose so high that her toes curled downward. Walking became painful. Running felt impossible. She tried everything. New shoes, therapy, but the pain only worsened. When she finally searched for answers, she was told it was a genetic disorder, something she had inherited, something that had always been inside her, waiting to reveal itself. And her feet were the first to show the signs. Then there was the old friend who found himself stumbling more than usual. His feet no longer felt steady. When he walked, his steps seemed uneven. And when he looked down, he noticed something strange. His once normal arches were no longer there. His feet had gone flat. He blamed it on aging at first. But then his legs felt weaker. His grip seemed less firm. And by the time he sought help, the diagnosis was clear. A progressive disease was attacking his nerves, stealing his strength. And the feet had been the first to warn him. The way the feet change over time is not just a matter of wear and tear. It is a matter of signals, of muscles responding, of nerves controlling every movement. When the arches rise too high, it can mean the muscles are tightening in ways they should not, that the nerves are sending messages they are not supposed to, that a condition deep within the body is pulling the feet into unnatural shapes. When the arches fall too low, it can mean the opposite, that the muscles are losing strength, that the nerves are no longer able to hold things in place, that the body is losing control. Slowly, quietly, until the signs can no longer be ignored. I have told many people over the years to watch their feet, not just for pain, but for change, to look at the way they stand, to feel the way they move, because the body always gives warnings before it takes something away, and the feet are often the first place those warnings appear. If the arches begin to shift without reason, if the feet begin to ache in ways they never did before, if balance becomes harder to maintain, it is not just about the feet. It is about what is happening inside, about the muscles, the nerves, the signals from the brain that tell the body what to do. Some conditions are written in our genetics, passed down silently until the moment they begin to show. Some are the result of diseases that creep in with time, weakening what once felt strong. But none of them happen without warning. And the feet, they know before we do. They change shape. They lose their strength. They become a signal, a message waiting to be heard. I have seen many ignore these signs. They wait until walking becomes painful, until movement feels unnatural, until the weakness spreads beyond their feet. But I have also seen those who listen early, who notice the changes before they take full control. And those are the ones who find ways to slow the decline, to seek help before the damage is too great. Why do some people experience unexplained burning sensations in their feet at night? And how is this connected to hidden health threats like peripheral neuropathy or autoimmune disorders? I once knew a man who suffered in silence for years. He was a strong man, never one to complain. But every night, his feet burned so badly that he could hardly sleep. He would soak them in cold water, elevate them, try every remedy he could find. But the burning never truly went away. It was only when the numbness set in, when his steps became unsteady, when he started to trip over his own feet, that he finally sought help. And that was when he learned the truth. It was not just his feet. It was his nerves. The damage had been happening for years, long before he ever felt the fire. And by the time he understood what was happening, the damage was permanent. That is the thing about burning feet. They are often the first whisper of something deeper, something hidden within the body. The nerves that once worked perfectly begin to misfire, sending signals that do not make sense, telling the brain there is heat where there is none, telling the feet they are burning when they are not. And for many, this is the early warning sign of peripheral neuropathy, a condition where the nerves slowly lose their function, where feeling begins to change, and where the body starts to lose control over its own signals. Some people ignore it at first. They think it is just exhaustion, or maybe poor circulation. But over time, the burning turns into numbness. The numbness turns into weakness. And before they realize it, they struggle to feel the ground beneath them. I have seen this happen to those with diabetes. Their blood sugar slowly damaging the delicate nerves in their feet, until what was once a minor irritation becomes a life-changing problem. I have seen it in those with vitamin deficiencies, their bodies lacking the nutrients needed to keep their nerves healthy. And I have seen it in those battling autoimmune disorders, their own immune system attacking their nerves, causing pain that makes no sense. A woman once came to me in tears. Her feet burned every night. She tried everything. different shoes, different socks, even sleeping with her feet out of the blankets. But nothing helped. And the worst part was that no one believed her. They told her it was all in her head, that she was imagining it. But she knew something was wrong. And when she finally saw a doctor who listened, she learned that her own body was turning against her, attacking her nerves. An autoimmune disorder she never even knew she had. And her feet were the first to reveal the truth. The body is always speaking to us. But not everyone listens. The burning in the feet is not just about discomfort. It is a warning, a signal that something is off balance, that the nerves are struggling, that something inside is not as it should be. And the sooner a person pays attention, the better their chances of slowing the damage before it is too late. I have seen people find relief when they catch it early, when they change their habits, take care of their bodies, give their nerves what they need to heal. Some need to control their blood sugar. Some need to correct vitamin deficiencies. Others need to find and treat the hidden autoimmune issues attacking them from the inside. And some, despite all efforts, must learn to live with the fire, managing it as best as they can. But what I tell everyone is this: do not ignore the burning. Do not assume it is nothing. The body does not send signals without reason. If the feet feel like they are on fire at night, if the sensation keeps coming back, if the pain makes no sense, then it is time to listen. Time to seek answers. Because the feet are not just the foundation of movement, they are the foundation of health. And when they burn, they are trying to tell you something important, something you cannot afford to ignore.